Part 2 Readings. Reading number 4. Title: Romania. A peculiar variant of National Socialism appears in Romania, in the various forms of a Christian nationalism incarnated in a series of leagues, all led or inspired by Codreanu. Deeply patriotic, Codreanu saw communism as a national challenge, even more than an ideological one, for Russia lay across the border, and Romania had often figured as a pawn in her game. Deeply Christian, however, Codreanu's anti-communism did not drive him to reaction, but to a reformist populism, which sought salvation in a change of heart as well as of economic conditions. The passages which follow show different aspects of Codreanu's thought, different stages in his evolution and concern. All mark clearly a certain concern with purity and quality which never left him, but which many of his followers never found. End of Eugen Weber's foreword for Readings number 4. Reading number 4b, entitled Corneliu Zelia Codreanu, The Legion of the Archangel Micheal, Our Program, 1927, *. Translated from Corneliu Zelia Codreanu, Pentu Legionari, in brackets, Bucharest 1936, end brackets, pages 284 to 287. This group of young people was the first beginning of legionary life. It was the foundation stone. It had to be placed on solid ground. Therefore, I didn't say, let us go and conquer Romania, go into the villages and cry, in quotations, a new political organization has been founded, join it, all of you, end quotations. I did not draw up a new political program besides the other 10 already existing in Romania, all of them, in quotations, perfect, end quotations, as far as their authors and their partisans were concerned. And I did not send legionaries to wave it around the villages, calling on men to take it up in order to save the country. From this point of view, too, we shall be fundamentally different from all the other political organizations, and from Cuza's party. All believe that the country is dying for lack of good programs, and so they put together some perfectly congealed program, and they take off with it to gather men. That is why people ask, in quotations, what program have you got? End quotations. This country is dying for lack of men, not for lack of programs. That is what we think. Therefore, it is not programs we must create, but men, new men. Because the way men are today, overgrown with politicking and infected by Jewish influence, they are bound to compromise the most brilliant programs. This kind of man, who lives today in Romanian politics, we have met him before in history. Under his rule, nations have died and states have collapsed. If this type of man continues to lead this country, the Romanian people will close its eyes forever, and Romania will collapse, in spite of all the brilliant programs with which the cunning of the degenerate politicians may fool the unhappy masses. That is why the keystone of the legions is man, not the political program. The reform of man, not the reform of political programs. It follows that the Legion of the Archangel Micheal will be more a school and an army than a political party. From this legionary school, a new man must appear, a man with heroic qualities, a giant in our history who will fight and win against all the enemies of the fatherland, his struggle and his victory extending beyond to the invisible enemies, to the power of evil. The finest souls that our minds can conceive, the proudest, tallest, straightest, strongest, cleverest, cleanest, bravest, and most hard-working that our race can produce, this is what the legionary schools must give us. A man in which all the possibilities of human greatness that God has sown in the blood of our people should be developed to the maximum. This hero, graduated from legionary school, will also know how to produce programs, will also know how to persuade the other Romanians, and if he cannot, he will know how to get his way and win. That is why he is a hero. This hero, this representative of bravery, of labor, of justice, with the powers of God in his soul, will lead our people on the road of its greatness. We shall create a spiritual atmosphere, a moral atmosphere, in which the heroic man may be born and on which he can thrive. Such an atmosphere must be isolated from the rest of the world by the most elevated spiritual buttresses. It must become guarded against all the dangerous winds of cowardice, corruption, decadence, and all the curses which bury nations and individuals. After the legionary has developed in this kind of atmosphere, in the nest, in brackets, the cell, and brackets, the work camp, in the organization and the legionary family itself, he will be sent into the world to live, in order to learn how to behave properly, to fight, in order to learn how to be brave and strong, to work, in order to learn the habit of working and the love of all those who labor, to suffer in order to steel himself, to sacrifice in order to get used to transcending his own personal in the service of his people. Wherever he goes, he will create a new atmosphere of the same kind. He will be an example. He will make other legionaries and people looking for better days. We will follow him. End of reading 4b.